today's Tanya. Let's move on to today's Tanya, my friends. So we gave a beautiful example yesterday, and we're discussing about loving Hashem. How do you love God? And we gave a new way. We give a new way for a person to love Hashem. Let's actually recap, okay? You could look at Hashem like your father, and instinctively you love your father. You could look at Hashem like your own life. Instinctively you love yourself. You love to live. It's just natural thing that we have. Then we went on to say, then we said you could also love Hashem through compassion, have mercy on God that He's stuck inside of us, and that mercy will wake up love. And then yesterday's class, we went on to say a fascinating idea that you could love Hashem when you know how much Hashem loves you. If you love Hashem, you'll know. If you know how much Hashem loves you, when you're loved, you feel love. Okay, when somebody loves you, you love them back. And that's a much more direct, easy way for everyone to feel. All we have to do is realize and know how much Hashem loves us and how much Hashem does for us. And he gave the example, imagine the greatest king in the world goes and takes this homeless guy that's living in the dumps that nobody cares about and brings him into his palace and hugs him and kisses him. And that's what Hashem did for us by taking us out of Egypt. We're the lowest of the low. And Hashem took us and brought us out of Egypt and show his great love. So how could a Jew not love Hashem, right? So that is the meditation that we were learning about in order to create the passion that we need in order to love Hashem. Okay, so that's what we've been talking about today. We'll continue on that theme of loving, feeling the love of Hashem that Hashem has for us. And by feeling the love of Hashem that Hashem has for us, we will end up loving Hashem too. We're continuing in that theme of realizing how close Hashem made us to Him, brought us to be close to Him, and that will give us great love to Hashem. We're continuing along those themes, understanding how Hashem brought us close to Him. Let's go inside. Okay, let's see. We're holding. Okay. And this is when we say a blessing, right? We say the blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. Whenever we do a mitzvah, we say, blessed are you, Lord our God. We spoke actually about the beginning of the blessing the other day, King of the world. And then we say, Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav, Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav, who sanctified us with His commandments. Hashem sanctified us with His mitzvahs. He made us holy. What does that mean? The term, it's a funny term we're using. God made us holy with His mitzvahs. What does that mean to make us holy? What does it mean God made us holy? We're actually learning in the Chumash the last few days. We keep on using that term. I'm holy and I'm making you holy. So it's right on topic with Chumash too. So he says, where else in life do we use the term Kiddushin? When a man marries a woman, what does he say? He says, Harei at mekudeshes. Behold, you are kadosh, sanctified to me. So this word kiddushin, it's called actually the term for marriage, is called kiddushin, is using this word of kadosh, of holiness. So it's very interesting. The term we use to describe marriage, unity of man and woman, is the same word we're using to describe Hashem and us being connected to each other. That's what means God making us holy. It means making us one. It's the same term that the husband tells the wife. I'm acquiring your hand in marriage. I'm betrothing you. I'm making you holy. I'm making you one with me. Let's see inside the words. When someone goes to marry a woman, to become one unity, as we also learned in today's Chumash, the wife can now eat truma because she literally becomes one with her husband. Like it talks about marriage. When it talks about intimacy in marriage, it says that man shall cleave to his wife, and they should become one flesh. There's no greater unity in our existence than husband and wife becoming truly one. So the term for the oneness and unity of husband and wife is called Kiddushin. Kacha mamish, exact same thing. But Yasser Killing Kids, and even more, infinitely more. Hu yichud nafshalikis is the unity and oneness of the godly soul. While he's studying Torah and doing mitzvahs, and the animal soul, and its garments, the soul that makes us live, and it's currently ill that we mentioned earlier. But with the infinite energy of Hashem when the person does the mitzvah. So when you do a mitzvah, you and God are becoming one. You're marrying God. That same connection that happens between husband and wife when they get married, that they become one. Same thing happens between a Jew and Hashem when he does Torah and mitzvahs. He literally becomes one. So there's no greater unity. The best example of unity that we have in life of oneness, what else of two parts, two different things becoming one, is the marriage of husband and wife. The same exact description is used as the best description we have, because the truth is that our unity with God is even more when we do a mitzvah. But we're taking the closest unity we have of two different things, which is marriage, and comparing that to the Jewish people and Hashem. And that's why King Solomon used this example in Shir HaShirim, in his book, Shir Song of Songs. He compares the unity between the Jews and Hashem to a bride and a groom, to them getting married. With longing, desire that's there when they're getting married, embraces and kissing. That is the same unity. He's telling you should know that the same unity, the same love, the same bond, the same connections when they couples getting married, that they feel at that moment under the chuppah, that they feel that they're marrying each other. There's a real loving bond connection there. You should know that that is the same experience that's happening whenever a Jew learns Torah or does a mitzvah. And that's why we say in the blessing, Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvotav, that you sanctified us with your commandments, because you made us one. So by doing this mitzvah, I pick up the mitzvah and I say, blessed are you, God, who sanctified us with the commandments, means you wanted to have intimacy with me. You wanted to have an intimate relationship together with the Jew. You gave the Jewish people the mitzvah in order that they could have this special, unique relationship with Hashem. Now he's going to say, well, more than that takes place when the Jew marries God, has intimacy with God. We also become very, very, very holy. We become literally one. When we do the mitzvah, we become one with God. Not just do we benefit here that God is marrying us, right? God took us from the lowest of lows in Egypt, and he's marrying us and giving us the mitzvah to continue and make this intimacy bond with us, but also we're also being lifted up to the greatest heights when we do the mitzvah. You lifted us up to holiness. He took this Jew who's dealing with all this garbage and all these emotions and whatever unhealthy situations in this world, and he lifted him up to the infinite level of Hashem, to the greatest holiness. You brought us to you. You brought us to God. You literally connected us and made us one with Hashem. That's what you did. What is the term that we're using? Keep on using it. Kedusha, holiness. It means separation. God, we always say God's holy. What does it mean God's holy? Because he's separated from the worlds. In other words, all the worlds we know, God's infinite, he's greater. We can't see him, we can't feel him, touch him, because he's beyond it. That he's intrinsically just infinitely greater than our world, separated from our world because he's not limited in the physical space. And then by you doing the mitzvah and becoming one with this infinite energy with Hashem, you like becoming the same holiness as Hashem. So God took you from a lowly being and made you connected to godliness, to Hashem, made you connected to the infinite energy of godliness. Because we're arguing here that at the moment of the mitzvah, you are literally becoming one with Hashem. And that's what the verse says, and this is the verse exactly we had in our Chumash the last few days. Be holy to me, because I'm holy. I'm separated. I'm removed. I want to make you two removed. I want you to come together one with me and be removed from this world. I separated you from the world, from the nations of the world, to be mine. And Hashem says, do the mitzvahs and be holy to God. I'm holy. I'm removed. I'm beyond this world, and I'm making you two together with me to be holy and removed and beyond this world. How do I make me and you one? By doing this mitzvah. And I'm making me and you one just like I was one with the forefathers. Now the forefathers were one with God because of what they did. They were like a chariot. They were ready to do anything and everything that God asked them. So they really worked on themselves and they became one with Hashem. And became one with God's light. But you get it as a gift. At the moment that a Jew, is learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, you literally become one, married to God, and become one with Hashem, and Hashem lifts you up from the physical world and lifts you up to the same level as the patriarchs as they worked on, but you get it as a gift, you get brought there. And because of that, because we really believe that the Jew at the moment that he's learning Torah, doing a mitzvah, is representing God because he's one with Hashem. You have to stand up before someone who does a mitzvah. Doesn't matter who the guy is. Even this is the most illiterate guy. It doesn't matter because at that moment that he's doing a mitzvah, doesn't matter how illiterate, how little he knows, or how far from Judaism he is. At that moment, he's totally one with Hashem, irrelevant of his status usually. Because at that moment, God is dwelling in him. The only problem is, you don't feel it. Your soul doesn't feel it. It's unconscious. It's unconscious to these feelings. It doesn't realize what's going on. Why not? Why don't you see this if this is so your one with Hashem is so real? Because your body is like a real thick sunglasses. It can't see. It's a real partition. It's stopping your vision. You might have 20/20, but you don't have the deeper dimension. Unlike our forefathers, unlike Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they did work on themselves and they got to see the benefit of their work. But you're here, no problem, jumping in, doing the mitzvah. You do the mitzvah, you make that connection. The only problem is you don't see the bond. And that's why the prophet Asaph said, what are the Jewish people like? They're doing unbelievable things and they have no clue what they're doing. We're like animals, just walking after the owner, like sheep just follow one another. We are like people who have no clue what it is that we're doing because of this partition that's blocking us. We're meanwhile connecting and become one with Hashem. Even though I'm an animal, so on one hand we're like an animal. We don't even realize what's going on. On the other hand, we're totally one with Hashem. I don't feel it at all, this amazing bond that's taking place. The tzaddikim, they feel awe of Hashem, and they feel love of Hashem, and then they go and do the mitzvah, and they realize they're connecting with God, and they have all this passion and this drive. It's so funny. Their average Jew has no clue what's going on. He's like an animal, but meanwhile, he's accomplishing the greatest thing in the world. Right? You could have someone accomplish a mission and have zero clue in what it is that they're doing. Like we always talk about application, knowledge, to get the person to feel and sense what he's doing. And this person has none of that, has no knowledge, has no clue what he's doing. But meanwhile, he's accomplishing the greatest unity between him and Hashem at the moment. This is what makes it so interesting, is that you have no clue what you're doing. You're like an animal, literally like an animal, because you don't know what's going on. You don't realize anything. Like an animal is in the room. He doesn't know what, he has no idea there's a business deal going on. The animal's standing, and imagine like a cow standing in the room. He doesn't know if he's going to be slaughtered. He doesn't know the plan. He doesn't know this guy has a whole plan with this cow. He wants to have babies. He wants to breed them, whatever. The animal has zero, or there's bombs flying outside. He thinks it's raining. The animal has zero clue what's going on around him. Yet, the animal could be accomplishing. I'm giving an example. Let's say tell a kid, press a button, and God forbid atomic bomb goes off. The kid has zero idea what he did, but he destroyed half the world meanwhile. You use the same thing positive too. Not always in life do we realize the good things that we're doing because we're clueless to it. So the tzaddikim, when they do a mitzvah, they know exactly what's going on. They have tremendous awe of Hashem and tremendous love. Meanwhile, you have the regular Jew who is like an animal, doesn't realize, has no comprehension, but meanwhile, he's having the ultimate unity. He's married to God. He's married to the King of the world. So it's possible to have, it's like getting married. You don't know who you're marrying. You don't know that you're getting married even. Imagine that. Like imagine someone goes to the chuppah. We know, halachically, you have to know you're getting married. It won't work. But imagine someone's getting married to the greatest person in the world. And the person has no clue. And they don't realize they're even maybe getting married. So it's like an animal who doesn't realize what's going on, which makes it so interesting. But the marriage still is a marriage. It still takes place. That's what it means. Nothing is dark and hidden from Hashem. So does the marriage take place? Yes. Are you becoming one with Hashem? Yes. You're just clueless about it. That's why he says, look, where do we see that there is no difference whether you know it or not. I guess if this person got married, didn't know they were married, I'm just thinking that analogy that I brought, they're still cheating and they got married and they forgot about it and they don't know about it, but maybe they forgot about it now. They're cheating on their partner by being with somebody else. So even though they don't know about it, but they are, their fact is they're married, and it's a heinous crime. So one guy remembers that he's married, one guy doesn't remember that he's married, and it doesn't make a difference whether the person remembers or doesn't remember. The crime is the same. They committed adultery still, whether they remembered or not. So here too, when a Jew even has no clue, when we sin, we don't realize the severity. We're hurting Hashem. We're hurting our partner who we're married to. So he says, example, like doing work on Shabbos or eating chametz on Pesach. He's like, it doesn't matter who you are on the pole. Like you're this great tzaddik who understands what's going on, or you don't understand. The crime is equal to everyone. The sin is going to cause a distance in your relation with Hashem equally. Because even in the most illiterate person, the fact is, Meir or Kedush Shabbos of Yontif, the light of Shabbos and Yontif is there in the person. That bond between you and Hashem is there. And the same capital punishment, whatever it is included in there because you are harming your relationship equally to the person who knows or the person who doesn't know. It doesn't matter if you know, don't know. The guy will like, oh, on Shabbos, big deal, I'll do a little this or muktzah or so on. He's bringing an example. Or I'll eat a little chametz on Pesach. He's causing the same damage as the greatest tzaddik who realizes what's going on. He doesn't realize, but the fact is he's still married to Hashem. Because the Torah is equal to everybody. It doesn't matter how great of a tzaddik you are, how connected you are to the Torah. The connection is the same whether you realize it or not. This is what it says: behemos, lashon rabim. We're like animals, plural. Liramis to say what? So basically, some Jew might say, look, the tzaddik is much closer to Hashem. He's much holier. He's much greater. He's much closer to God. But the simple Jew, he's much further away, or so on. You want to know something? Relative to God, the tzaddik is an animal just like the low. In other words, there really is no difference. Relative to God, even the greatest tzaddik is still an animal relative to Hashem. So why don't call yourself, don't say, understand, someone will say, I'm a bad Jew. I'm a low Jew. You're not a low Jew. Even the greatest Jew is low relative to Hashem. There's no difference. Stop making these degradations between Jews. They're all married to Hashem equally. And if you want to say you're low, then the tzaddik is also low relative to Hashem. You and the tzaddik are exactly the same. And even the intellect of Hashem, the highest level of intellect, relative to the infinite energy of God, we all look like animals. We're all Jews who don't sense spirituality. Hashem created everything with wisdom. Relative to God's creation, we're all the same. There's no difference between, you understand? Like an animal and a person is the same relative to the energy of creation because it's so much greater. He gets into a little Kabbalah, just finishing off here, that the letters ban, which equals 52, is the same letters as animal, which is 52, and ban comes from a very high level of Atzilus, so even animals come from a very high level, and we're all animals relative to the energy that's creating us. We are all in the level of animals, and that is the end, my friend, of today's Tanya. So just to recap, no Jew should say he's a low Jew, because we're all equally low relative to Hashem. If you want to look at yourself in a distance, the point he wants to bring out is very powerful. Is that your bond and the tzaddik's bond is exactly the same to Hashem, and you should know that you're married to God, just like on a chuppah night where a husband and a bride and a groom get married. When you do that mitzvah, that's the same exact or greater than that is your bond and connection with Hashem. And he proves that by saying, is the sin any less severe of the lower guy than the bigger guy? It makes no difference because the marriage is the same. They're both married to Hashem, and therefore the violation is the same. He's trying to bring that out as a point to show that you should not think your bond is the tzaddik sees the mitzvah as the greatest thing he could accomplish, and the regular guy doesn't see that as the greatest thing he could accomplish. Doesn't matter. It's just that you don't see it. You don't remember your wedding day. Doesn't mean you're not married because you don't remember your wedding day. The crime would be the same. You are, every time you do a mitzvah, you're connected to the infinite. Hashem raised you up and lifted you to the greatest level. And realizing this greatness that Hashem lifted you up and made you one with him because he loves you so much will get you to what's it called? Will get you to love Hashem too when you realize that's how much Hashem loves you, which is the point of the current Tanya. Yes, David.
I don't see how we could be equal in Hashem's eyes, because the analogy I'm thinking about is that if you're a student and you put the work in, students are students in the classroom. So they're all looked at from the teacher from day one as being equal. But then you have students that put the work in, they work harder to achieve more. So let's just say you and I, you personally and me personally, you try so hard every day to follow the protocols and guidelines of Judaism, where you want to achieve that godliness with Hashem. And I try, but I don't try on your level, or I shouldn't say try, or I don't want to do what you do on your level. So how could we be looked at the same when you do so much more and you work so hard to achieve Jewish godliness versus me, who, yes, I've made great strides in the last 13 years. There could be a zillion things I do more, but I don't. So how could we be looked at as the same? I have a problem with that.
So first of all, just that, not relative to our topic, me and you started from different places. So I actually think you, from your starting point to where you, your life journey, you have gone further than me in my life journey. So wherever my starting point was to where I am now, you've actually, I believe, gone further than me in your journey than I have.
But I can argue.
I wish. Whatever, that's what I think. Listen, we could debate that, but I actually think that from point A to point B, you have grown more than I have grown in my life. So Hashem put me in, again, going back to what Ayal mentioned before, this great idea. We each have our tailored mission, and it's where Hashem put us. Hashem put me. I didn't choose my parents. You didn't choose your parents. I didn't choose where I was born. You didn't choose where you were born. We didn't choose any of that. We were put into our life mission that we have to accomplish. I don't think I'm accomplishing as much as you are accomplishing in your journey. So that's number one, just off the bat. Number two, I'll give you an example to what the point of Tanya is making. So if you go to, let me take my kids even. So I'll take my kid. I have Uziel, a kid who's 2 years old and who's 1.5, whatever. And then there's his cousins, his friends he plays with, who are like a half a year older than him. They're much more, they could say many more words than him. They're much more, very much further advanced. 6 months gets you way further than you are before. So my son could, let's say, speak 5 or 10 words. The other kids are speaking 30, 40 words, could explain what they want to say. They're thirsty or so on. Like my kid can't still tell me if he's thirsty. I don't know why he's crying. So then we can compare those two kids relative to my 5-year-old. They're one smarter than the other, whatever. Now compare them. Now take them to a professor in the greatest physics class, the greatest professor in physics, who's sitting in a class, and you take these two kids and you plop them into the physics class that's going on. They're equal in that they have no clue what's flying. So relative, again, we're talking about relativity here, relative to that professor's level, the 1.5-year-old and the 2-year-old, or I would even venture to say a 5th grader and a 10th grader, have zero inkling on what this genius, what Einstein's teaching his theory of relativity, and they're in the classroom, they both have zero clue what, relative to that topic, they have zero clue what's going on. So he's saying that he uses that, so that's his point. We're all, don't say I'm a bad Jew. or I'm a lesser Jew than another Jew because you're all equally Jewish. You're all equally married to Hashem. When you do a mitzvah, or the greatest tzaddik does the mitzvah, even though he has all this passion and drive, which is amazing, relative to Einstein's theory, is teaching his class, his theory of relativity, you're both the same on the same level. Hashem is so much greater than us. It doesn't make a difference. So use marriage. When somebody marries the other person, I don't care what kind of wedding they had. I don't care how many flowers they had, or I don't care that even if you love the person or not, you're married, you got married, and that's it. I don't care where you're at now. You had a marriage, and the person's married, whether they remember it or they don't remember it, they had a big wedding or a small wedding. It's irrelevant. The marriage took place. That's the point is that, and then when one violates it, even though one violates it much more love, that's it, than the other one, the violation is the same. They both violated their marriage. It's the point that you understand. They're trying to bring out that there really is no difference, that we're both married to Hashem equally. You're right. There is something unique that one feels that and one doesn't, but it doesn't matter. You're still connected to Hashem equally at that moment when you do it.
Go back to that student example for a second.
Yeah.
If a student achieves a perfect score on their SAT and they have honors classes, they get straight A's, that student will be accepted into a better college than the student who achieves straight B's in school. So it appears that there would be in some way, shape, or form an award by Hashem to those who work harder to be.
I like your example. You know what your reward is? That you'll get into college.
Right.
So you're right. You're not wrong. You'll get a reward, but we're not talking about the reward. We're not talking about the reward and benefit. You're right. One might get, if you have discipline in life, if you waste all your money on silly things, you're not going to invest and you're not going to be successful. You won't have savings down the road. Or if you're a person that saves and doesn't waste all the, if a person doesn't waste all the money, puts something in savings and puts something in investment, they'll have down the road. Correct. That's true. But I'll use an example of marriage. Good. It's a good example that they brought up here. One spouse spends all the money and the guy is penniless at 10 years later. And the other spouse doesn't spend any of the money, invests all the money, and they're millionaires down the road, okay? It doesn't matter. They're still equally regarding spending the money, or the husband. I'm not going to use one way. We can use both ways. The bottom line is they're both married. Whether they spend all the money or not, they will suffer consequences from their action. We're not debating that. But the fact is, from a certain perspective, which is what we're relative to being married to Hashem, relative to the mitzvah is equal. They're both married equally, whether they, you understand? So you're right. You're talking about reward and benefit. There will be a difference, 100%. In that regard, there will be. I agree with you. You're right. There will be a difference based on your actions and how much reward you'll get, how easy your life will be, or so on. But it's like here, you know what? It's like like if someone gets a ticket for speeding, it doesn't matter who you are. It shouldn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. You get the ticket. It's irrelevant of you went fast, whatever your excuse was. The fact is you went fast and you get a ticket. So at certain points, and the point I'm trying to make relative to Hashem, stop calling yourself a bad Jew. You're right. You'll get a reward. You'll get the rest of the reward. But when at the act of the mitzvah, we're all equal before Hashem. The unity between us and Hashem. I'll give an example. Even one will have a better life than the other, more enjoyable life. But they're both. In other words, they're both going to go from point A to point B. They're going to live. They're both going to live 70, 80 years. The question is what kind of life you'll have. You're right. Depending on how you act, you'll have a better life or a worse life. If you're nicer, you'll have a nicer life. If you're a mean person, you'll have a meaner life. Correct. I agree with you on that. I'm not disagreeing with that, but it doesn't mean you're both not doing the mitzvah. That doesn't mean you're not going through life.
Yeah, I'm not saying that two Jews with one doing more than another, one should be classified as a lesser or
I think they both shake lulav and esrog. Is one lulav and esrog any less than the other? No, they're both connected to Hashem at the moment.
I'm saying if you're a Jew, you're a Jew. But
Right.
It would seem that Hashem rewards those who go the extra step. That's my
Yeah,
point.
you'll have a more enjoyable. Correct. If you understand the meaning behind lulav and esrog, you'll have a better experience
Yeah.
in shaking lulav and esrog. But the guy who didn't have all the meaning and thought behind it still shook the lulav and esrog. He still did the mitzvah, and he's still connected to Hashem in that unique way. We're not. He. The guy who didn't have any feeling behind it will have a lesser experience, but he'll still have done the act. He'll still have done the mitzvah equally, just in that sense, equally to anybody else. I think that's the point that we're trying to make. Yeah. Good point,
Thank you.
David. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thank God we're catching up on Tanya. Chumash was long today, but we did 2 days Tanya. God willing, we'll catch up soon. We'll be up to date with everything with the Chumash and Tanya. Have a great day. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Sei gesund.
Take care. Zagis and David. All the best. Thanks for joining.